Have you ever felt like your life is falling apart even while you're praying harder than ever? Like the more you try to stay firm on the path of Allah, the more difficult everything becomes. My brothers and sisters, that feeling is not a sign of rejection, it's a sign of transformation. Sometimes before Allah opens the biggest doors for you, He allows the old ones to close painfully, but not to punish your other, to prepare you. You see, when Allah is about to elevate you, He first clears your path. He removes the distractions. He softens your heart and He strengthens your soul. Today, I want to share with you the clear signs that Allah is preparing something beautiful for you. Signs that may look like pain, like silence, like confusion, but are actually mercy in disguise. These aren't guesses. These are patterns rooted in the Quran, in the Sunnah, and in the lives of the righteous who came before us. Stay with me, and you may realize what you thought was the end was really the beginning of something far greater. Allah never tests except to raise, never delays except to protect, and never breaks except to rebuild you stronger than before. Everything falls apart before it comes together. When life feels like it's crumbling around you, relationships ending, plans failing, doors closing, you might assume you're doing something wrong. But the reality is sometimes when Allah wants to elevate you, He first removes everything that cannot grow with you. It may feel like a breakdown, but it's actually a setup for breakthrough. In the Quran, we're reminded that with hardship comes ease, not after, but with. That means your collapse might be carrying your cure within it. You might not see it now, but the storm you're in could be the very thing that's clearing your path. When a house is weak, it must first be torn down before it's rebuilt strong. Likewise, when your foundation in life is shaky based on people, plans, or illusions, Allah in His mercy may shake it down so He can replace it with something better. It hurts, it's confusing, but it's divine reconstruction, not destruction. Think about Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. He was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a well, sold as a slave, and imprisoned unjustly. Everything fell apart for him. But every step, no matter how dark, was taking him closer to his purpose. He had to fall before he could rise. And so do we. Sometimes our downfall is simply a staircase to our destiny. When you're being pulled away from what you wanted, it can feel like punishment. But what if it's protection? What if that closed door is saving you from something you didn't see coming? What if that rejection was actually redirection? Allah knows what lies ahead. You see only what's gone, but He sees what's on its way. So many times what we think is the end is actually the beginning. The job you lost, it may be what pushes you towards something more fulfilling. The person who left, they might have been blocking your peace. The plan that failed, perhaps it was never written for you. Allah doesn't remove to leave you empty. He removes to refill you with what aligns with your purpose. Sometimes you have to be emptied out so that you can be filled with something greater. Your hands may be bleeding from holding on, but when you finally let go, you'll realize Allah had something better waiting all along. He never takes except to give, and He never delays except to prepare. When things fall apart, they are often falling into place. In the moment of loss, your vision becomes clouded. You start to panic, question, and despair. But those are the very moments when your faith must speak louder than your fear. Allah never said the path would be easy, but He did promise that He is with those who are patient, those who trust Him even when the road seems uncertain. Look at the story of Maryam. She was in deep pain, alone, and misunderstood. But that was the moment Allah chose to gift her with the miracle of Isa. It was in the middle of her struggle that her story changed forever. Your miracle might be hiding in your hardest moment too. You just haven't seen it yet. Allah's way is not always what we expect. We think ease means success, but sometimes the discomfort is where the real transformation happens. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever Allah wants good for, He puts them through trials. Why? Because the test cleanses the heart, it strengthens the soul, it brings you closer to Him in ways comfort never could. If you're watching your life fall apart, don't rush to fix everything. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is surrender. Say, Ya Allah, I don't understand, but I trust you. That simple act of submission could be the beginning of something incredible. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to trust the one who does. Your pain is not pointless. Your confusion is not a curse. It's a process, a divine process that strips you of what is temporary so you can be rebuilt upon what is eternal. When everything falls apart, it might be because Allah is writing a new chapter on where your soul is stronger, your heart is cleaner, and your connection to Him is unshakable. So breathe, step back, and remind yourself, just because it's falling apart doesn't mean you're falling behind. Sometimes Allah lets everything collapse just so He can rebuild you in a way you never imagined. Trust the process. Because soon you'll look back and say, if that hadn't broken, I wouldn't be who I am today. And that is the mercy hidden in the mess. When people leave, Allah is making space. When someone walks away from your life, especially when you gave them your heart, your trust and your prayers, it feels like a deep betrayal. But what if I told you their departure was not your loss, but Allah's protection? In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah reminds us, but perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you. Sometimes the people we beg to stay are the ones Allah is gently removing so we can breathe again. Not everyone is meant to go where Allah is taking you. You may feel abandoned, but He's clearing your path. He's removing what will weigh you down in your next season. The Prophet ﷺ himself lost loved ones, faced abandonment from tribes, and was betrayed by those close, yet each loss made room for greater strength, deeper faith, and the right companions. We often beg for peace, but we don't realize some people are the very source of our unrest. When Allah takes someone away, it's rarely without wisdom. He sees the conversations behind closed doors. He hears the hearts we can't read. You may be crying over someone who was never written in your story for the long term. Remember, Allah never subtracts without intention. The absence you feel today may be the silence He needs to fill you with clarity. Sometimes He lets people leave not because you're unworthy, but because your worth was being diminished in their presence. Let them go and let Him show you why they were never meant to stay. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you trusted Allah more than your feelings. It takes strength to release what you once begged to hold. It takes faith to say, Ya Allah, you know best. And in that surrender, you'll find a new peace note from people, but from the one who controls hearts. Look at the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. He had to walk away from his homeland, from his people, even from his father, for the sake of Allah. But with every step of obedience, Allah honored him. Sometimes distance is the first step toward destiny. Don't confuse loneliness with abandonment. Sometimes it's divine isolation for reflection and growth. When people exit your life suddenly, especially without closure, your heart aches for answers. But what if no answer is the answer? Some doors don't need to close loudly, they just need to close. And when they do, trust that Allah is shifting the environment around you to match the du'as you've been making in secret. The wrong people can block the right blessings. The ones who doubt you, distract you, or derail your peace are not part of Allah's plan for your elevation. Like Musa, had to separate from Pharaoh's palace before he could lead his people. Sometimes we have to leave behind comfort to embrace our calling. Your circle is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to your soul. When people leave, it's Allah protecting your heart from further cracks. He is the best of planners, and when He removes, He always replaces with better companions, deeper self-awareness, and a stronger bond with Him. Sometimes Allah empties your space so you'll finally fill it with Him. When people walk away, it creates the quiet needed for sincere dua. It opens the space for remembrance, for tears, for healing. The Prophet ﷺ often found his greatest strength in solitude because that's where the heart hears Allah most clearly. Healing after loss isn't instant, and Allah knows your pain. He sees the nights you spend in tears. He hears the du'as you whisper through sobs, but He also sees what you cannot, what you're becoming, what He's preparing for you, what He's shielding you from. You're not being punished, you're being purified. So when someone walks out of your life, don't run after them. Don't cling to the shadow of what used to be. Let go and let Allah do what He does. Replace loss with mercy, replace sadness with strength, and replace that person with something far more valuable, a deeper connection with Him. Restlessness is a sign your soul is being pulled. There are days when your heart feels unsettled. Even if everything seems fine on the outside, you wake up with a heaviness you can't explain. That's not random discomfort, that's your soul being called to rise. In Surah Al-Shar, Allah says, indeed, with hardship comes ease, but sometimes the hardship is internal, a divine nudge to move closer to Him. Restlessness often appears when you're outgrowing the space you're in. What once felt comfortable now feels confining. It's Allah placing discomfort in places you've settled too long. When your soul is meant to grow, He won't allow you to stay in rooms that limit your potential spiritually, emotionally, or even socially. It's easy to mistake this feeling for confusion or weakness, but it's often guidance disguised as unease. Just as pain tells your body something needs healing, restlessness tells your soul that something needs realignment. Allah doesn't allow this inner stirring without purpose. It's the start of transformation. Think of Prophet Yunus A.S. Restless in his mission, he left his people too soon only to find peace again in the stillness of the whale's belly. That discomfort wasn't punishment. It was a spiritual reset. Sometimes we need to be pulled into darkness to discover the light we've been ignoring. We look for answers in distractions, scrolling, noise, endless activities, but the unease only grows. Why? Because no worldly pleasure can quiet a soul that's being summoned by its Creator. Allah says in Surah Ar-Ra'd, verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. The peace you seek isn't outside, it's inward, and it begins with Him. Restlessness is also a sign of spiritual hunger. Your soul is telling you that it's tired of surface level living, tired of just surviving. It wants meaning, it wants Allah. You may not have the words for it yet, but deep inside you know something sacred is missing. That longing, that yearning is divine. Even when you're unsure of where to go, the feeling of not here is still a form of guidance. Allah may not show you the destination yet, but He's making it clear that the current place is not where you're meant to remain. The discomfort becomes the compass, a painful but powerful gift. When your life is about to change, the first thing Allah often changes is your comfort. He removes ease from old patterns so you're no longer willing to stay in them. You lose satisfaction in places you once begged for. It feels like loss, but it's the beginning of redirection. There's wisdom in not feeling at home in this world. The Prophet ﷺ reminded us, be in this world as though you were a stranger or a traveler. That inner pull you feel is a reminder, this isn't your final stop. You were made for more. You were made for Jannah. Don't settle for less. Restlessness isn't weakness. It's an awakening. It's the mercy of Allah refusing to let you stay asleep in a life that lacks purpose. Don't ignore it. Listen to what your soul is whispering beneath the noise. It's craving something eternal, a return to dhikr, to dua, to divine nearness. When you're being pulled, don't resist, don't numb it, sit with it, reflect, pray, cry if you must, but don't walk away from it. Because that uneasy feeling may be the very rope Allah is using to bring you back to Him gently, powerfully, lovingly. So the next time you feel that internal restlessness, don't call it a bad day, call it a sacred reminder. Your soul is trying to speak. And Allah is trying to reach you not through loud events, but through the quiet ache that says, you're meant for more, come back to me. Old tests return before big elevation. Have you ever found yourself facing the same struggle you thought you had already overcome? The same fear, the same temptation, the same pain. It's not a sign that you're failing, it's a sign that Allah is preparing you for elevation. Before every rise in status, there's a return to the basics. Just as a teacher retests before promotion, Allah resends the test to strengthen what was once weak. Old wounds resurface not to hurt you, but to show you how far you've come. You may not notice your growth until you face the same storm with a calmer heart. What once made you break now only makes you bend. This is Allah's mercy showing you that you're not the same person anymore. You've grown even if you don't feel it. The Quran reminds us in Surah Al-Ankabut, do people think they will be left alone because they say, we believe and will not be tested? Faith doesn't eliminate tests, it invites them. The difference is now, your faith is stronger. When old tests come back, they come to prove or not destroy. Think of Prophet Musa, ass. He faced Pharaoh's cruelty once, escaped, grew stronger in the desert, and returned to face the same tyrant, but this time as a messenger. The test came again, but the man had changed. Likewise, when the test returns in your life, it's because you are ready to respond differently with wisdom, not reaction. Sometimes Allah reintroduces a challenge to purify your heart one more time. Maybe you've let pride sneak in. Maybe fear has crept back in quietly. The test reveals what's hidden so you can release it before He elevates you. The goal isn't punishment, it's preparation. Before rain falls, the sky darkens. That darkness is part of the mercy. Old habits reappear when you're near a breakthrough. Shaitan whispers louder, trying to pull you back into cycles you've escaped. But don't panic. Recognize it as a sign you are close to a new level of spiritual clarity. That's why the enemy wants to distract you. Stay firm. Allah is watching how you respond differently this time. Even the Prophet ﷺ faced rejection multiple times from the same people in Makkah before the victory of Medina. It wasn't that his message changed, it was that his endurance proved his worthiness. Sometimes the test stays the same until your response changes. And when it does, so does your destiny. When you feel disappointed by deja vu, remind yourself, this isn't failure. This is your moment to reclaim power through patience. This is your chance to glorify Allah by not falling where you once did. The same test in a different season has a different purpose, to certify you for elevation. Growth is not proven in comfort, it's proven in repetition. When you can walk through the fire with a cooler heart, that's elevation. When you choose silence over anger, prayer over panic, forgiveness over ego, that's success. And sometimes it takes the old test returning to show you just how much you've changed. The more you're trusted with greatness, the more Allah tests you with responsibility. Every prophet was tested repeatedly yet rose each time. Why? Because elevation demands purification. And purification isn't always pretty. It requires returning to the very places that once broke you, only to rise again from them, stronger and wiser. So don't fear the pattern, don't curse the repetition, don't say, why again? Say, Alhamdulillah, it's my turn to rise. If the same challenge comes knocking, open the door with a new version of yourself. Allah doesn't waste your pain. He uses it to polish your soul for what you prayed for. The next time an old test visits, don't collapse into self-doubt. Smile gently and say, I see you, Allah, you're preparing me. And walk through it with grace. Because every return test is a signal. The next chapter is near. Elevation is coming. Stay patient, stay ready, stay close to Him. Silence from Allah is not absence. There are moments when you cry out in sujood, your voice trembling, your heart heavy, and yet nothing, no sign, no answer, just silence. And it's in that silence that shaitan whispers, maybe Allah isn't listening. But don't be fooled. Silence is not absence. Allah hears every tear before it falls. And He knows the pain you can't put into words. The silence of Allah is not rejection, it's refinement. Sometimes Allah is quiet because He's strengthening your heart to receive what you asked for. Just as a seed grows best underground in darkness and quiet, your dua is growing beneath the surface. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean He's not working on it. Look at Prophet Ayyub, ass. His body was in pain. His wealth was gone. His family lost, yet Allah remained silent for years. But when he said, indeed adversity has touched me and you are the most merciful of the merciful. The response came, Allah was never absent. The silence was part of the purification.